Fictional storylines are a lot of fun until they come true. Many movies have been praised for their unique and creative storylines that often involve outrageous depictions of the future. But as it turns out, several films have accurately and accidentally predicted world events even though they were set in a completely fictional future. These are 10 movies that predicted the future. Number 1 is Back to the Future 2. We may still be waiting for real hoverboards, but Back to the Future 2 did get a few things right so far. The second movie in one of the best franchises of all time was released in 1989. Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, is transported all the way into the future to the year 2015. They predicted that movies would be mostly 3D and that we'd be stuck in a never-ending cycle of sequels. Another thing the movie got right was the invention of wearable tech that works like Google Glasses and looks a lot like the Oculus Rift. Also, in 2016, Nike actually did release self-lacing shoes like shown in the movie. But by far, the biggest thing was the prediction that the Cubs would win their first World Series championship in over a century in 2015 against the Miami Gators. Now granted, although the team the Miami Gators never existed, the Cubs did win that year just as the movie predicted. Number 2 is Jurassic Park. Okay, I'd be lying if I said that when I was a kid, I didn't wish that there was a real Jurassic Park, because I totally did. You know, a place where we could go and be totally dumbstruck like Dr. Alan Grant seeing live dinosaurs just hanging out. But the truth is, it might not be fiction, or even that far away for that matter. When Jurassic Park was released in 1993, the animated cartoon talking about using frogs to create dino DNA seemed pretty legit, but it was quickly written off as typical science fiction nonsense. Well, think again, because it's estimated that dinosaurs roaming the Earth could theoretically only be about 10 years away. Just because something doesn't seem like the safest idea doesn't mean someone out there won't try it. And believe it or not, it looks like scientists are doing that right now. Scientists are continuously searching for fossilized dino DNA, but when they do find it, instead of using frogs, they want to mix it with chicken DNA. That's because chickens and birds are direct descendants of dinosaurs. Can we hold off on the raptors and just start with a nice calm stegosaurus? You know, something vegetarian that's not gonna eat me like a snack. Number 3 is The Net. Released in 1995, The Net was billed as a cyber action thriller all about the then mysterious and unknown world of the internet. Now, despite all of the floppy disks, the movie did make some pretty accurate predictions like online identity theft. 22 years ago, someone being able to take over your whole life because they knew everything about you from your credit card information to your address to your favorite music and food seemed like a totally impossible nightmare. But surprise, surprise! Today, we willingly broadcast our lives online through hundreds of different channels 24/7 and rarely think of the possible consequences. Partly due to that, identity theft is higher than ever before. But all of that doom and gloom Big Brother stuff aside, the most important prediction that Sandy made was the best use of the internet ever invented. Websites dedicated to ordering pizza online. That reminds me, I'm kind of hungry. Time to get some pizza. Number 4 is Face Off. Released in 1997, this movie is action film gold and starred 2 of the biggest actors at the time, John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. The pretty ridiculous plot has a good cop and a bad guy have their faces removed and swapped, with near perfect results, pretty much 0 recovery time, and reversible. Now, while we aren't quite there yet, in 2010, a team of 30 surgeons in Spain completed the first successful full facial transplant. The donor face was taken from a cadaver to replace the face of a man who was disfigured in a shooting accident. But since then, over 20 full or partial facial transplants have been done all over the world. Even though most patients will have to be on medicine for the rest of their lives so that their bodies don't reject the donor face, the technology is amazing and allows patients to have working facial muscles, eyelids, and even tear ducts. Face off. Number 5 is The Truman Show. The Truman Show, released in 1998, is about a man named Truman Burbank, played by Jim Carrey, who discovers that his whole life has been a reality TV show watched by millions. Now, it seemed crazy that anyone would actually spend their time watching the real daily lives of strangers, but guess what? It happened. Only 2 years later, on May 31st, 2000, the first season of Survivor aired on CBS, and 17 years later, not only is Survivor still going strong, but reality TV has just completely taken over. So much so that there are even subgenres and television stations like TLC and HGTV practically dedicated to reality programming. From extreme makeovers to bachelors and bachelorettes to wannabe singers and basically every type of wife you could think of, from House to Mob, the list goes on and on. They get a bad rap, but millions of people tune in every single week. Still, please end the Kardashians. Please, just please. Number 6 is Americathon. Released in 1979, Americathon has become a comedy cult classic, starring John Ritter, Fred Willard, and Jay Leno. It even has an appearance by Meatloaf and is narrated by comedy legend George Carlin. The movie is set 20 years in the future in 1998. Even though it's a comedy, Americathon is about some pretty intense social, economic, and political issues. In 1979, the USSR was still very much a thing, but the movie accurately predicted that the Soviet Union would fall. They also got right that China would start to embrace capitalism and would rise as a world superpower, which is definitely happening. We are also living in a world where American oil production has gone down and hybrid vehicles are becoming more and more common. And maybe not as impressive, but they even got it right that indoor smoking would be banned and that the Beach Boys would still be around. That last one's wonderful. It's just classic stuff. Number 7 is Videodrome. Videodrome was released in 1983 and is a terrifying sci-fi movie directed by David Cronenberg. Cronenberg is known for exploring the extremes of technology and the human psyche, and Videodrome is no exception. The movie predicted our obsession with technology, viral content, and what is basically a nightmare version of YouTube. James Woods plays a CEO who finds a mysterious TV station that is playing some pretty horrifying dark web level content. As he becomes more and more obsessed with video, it starts to control his mind. And kind of like viral videos today, more and more people start discovering and sharing the channel. Like a lot of content that gets posted to our modern day social media, it's not clear where the video first came from, or if it's real or staged. But in this case, the viral media becomes an actual virus, and instead of giving the viewers more control and freedom, it takes over their minds. Man, that's what happens when you put subliminal stuff in videos. Number 8 is Network. Unlike other movies that predicted the future, Network has nothing to do with futuristic technology and everything to do with who we are as a society. Released in 1976, it was a huge hit and won 4 Oscars, including Best Original Screenplay. What made Network so popular was just how realistic the story was. The movie is about a longtime TV news anchor played by Peter Finch, who gets fired from his job because of his low ratings. The movie was meant to be an outrageous satire on sensational news. Too bad for us, just 40 years later, we now live in a society full of tabloid news and gossip journalism. Given the amount of information we have access to online, and with 24-hour news, media outlets are constantly fighting for ratings, which has led to fewer in-depth news segments on mainstream TV, more political pundits, and attention-grabbing headlines, and has arguably led the way for the rise of fake news. Number 9 is Enemy of the State. 1998's Enemy of the State, starring Will Smith and Gene Hackman, took Big Brother is Watching to a whole nother level. When Will Smith's character discovers a cover-up of a congressman's murder, the NSA tracks him down and tries to have him killed. Now, at the time, it seemed impossible that the US government would give the NSA clearance to hack into any phone, camera, or computer to track a citizen. Oh, but didn't that change? In 2013, Edward Snowden leaked secret secret NSA documents, and it turns out they did even more than that. It turns out the government had been secretly monitoring private emails, phone conversations, social media, used GPS trackers, facial recognition, and more on all of its US citizens, and not just suspected terrorists, despite that being totally illegal. Emails released by BuzzFeed in January of 2016 revealed that NASA was not happy with the movie or director Tony Scott either. Now that is one list I would not want to be on. You know what, NSA? Just forget about that last part. You're wonderful. You're not spying on nobody. Everything is hunky-dory. And number 10 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Released in 2004, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a science fiction romantic dramedy and is considered to be one of the saddest and most beautiful movies ever made. Written by Charlie Kaufman and directed by Michael Gondry, the movie stars Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet as on and off again lovers. Because their breakup was so painful, they each have their memories of each other erased, and then they have to deal with the consequences. Even though we've all gone through some very painful times, Eternal Sunshine doesn't exactly make a great case for having your memory removed. But that hasn't stopped some people from trying. In 2014, scientists working with the American Psychological Association announced that they were able to manipulate memories and emotions in mice. They went on to say that the technology will eventually be used on humans, specifically on negative memories, particularly for PTSD sufferers. I'll be honest with you, I don't want my brain zapped. Please don't poke and prod in there. I'll just leave every mistake as a lesson. That's the best way to look at it. But thank you guys so much for watching this, and if you enjoyed it, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'll have a brand new video for you tomorrow at 12 West Coast time, 3 Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you come by then. Have a fantastic day.